Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review At Eternity's Gate. And this film is about Vincent Van Gogh and his time in this village where he did a lot of his work towards the end of his life. And this is written and directed by Julian Schnabel and starring Willem Dafoe. There are some other cast members like Oscar Isaac, Rupert Friend, Mads Mikkelsen who pop up and do a fine job, but for the most part this is Willem Dafoe's film. And this is the kind of film where you're looking at this film and there's a lot of things that I extremely admire about it, especially from a film perspective. But this is one of those kinds of films that to me felt like it crossed a little bit too far into like overly indulgent, like this is super artsy. But the thing is, it's like it kind of missed out on some important details that really makes for a strong film. And Julian Schnabel, as the director and the writer of this film, I think had some issues with the pacing of this film because I was legit like bored at points in this film. And this film pushes 2 hours, and there's points where it really does take its time, but I feel like there isn't enough of a driving force, driving thread through this film to keep you engaged. Now, I was just talking about a deliberate pace in Mandy, but the thing is that film always felt like it was driving forward towards something. This film feels like it's meandering around and doesn't really have a point to it. And it basically is, let's do long periods of beautifully shot walking through places, running through places, and just absorbing nature, and then overly long scenes of super deep thought-provoking dialogue. And after a while, or even from the start, it's kind of hard to just really feel invested in that. And there are things that help you stay invested in that on some level, and Willem Dafoe's performance, which I guess right off the bat just talk about, Willem Dafoe's performance in this film is fantastic. He does a great job. He really carries this film, and he needs to, because he is the one who is carrying this film. And how this film is shot, it's really up close and personal, and he's able to carry the film despite the fact that he always has like a camera always right on top of him, and he's still able to act and still feel like he's fully immersed in his performance, where there isn't something like right in his face and right on his hands, right on his feet. All those things, he's able to balance all that and really put in an intriguing performance as Vincent Van Gogh, who is somebody who is a very tortured soul. Now, the interesting thing about this film is there's a lot of similarities. Like, this does not feel like a film that you would go right off and say, this reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph or Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's like there's obnoxious pandering of like Easter eggs throughout, where it's like those in the know would be like, haha, I get that. And a lot of people are, it's like, well, that's just obnoxious, it's taking away from the film. This film has that. There's parts where he's like, I just might draw a portrait of you, and it's a very obviously a man that he has painted a very famous portrait of, and it's kind of like, that's a bit on the nose, movie. Bit on the nose. And there's points like that in this, and I wasn't expecting that in like an art house kind of film like this, but it happened, and I was kind of taken aback by that. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I'm a little surprised that they would do stuff like that in this film, and that took me out of the film a couple times. And then I have to say, this can be a very alienating film. Some people walked out of this film while I was sitting there watching it. I'm like, holy crap. I don't usually see a whole lot of films that have people walk out on it, but I don't think this isn't a bad film, and by no means it's a mediocre film. I think this is still a really good film. There's just some certain things that didn't mesh well so much with me, and the pacing, it can take a huge investment to really sit through this film. But Schnabel really helps create an emotional experience, and you really feel, because you get to experience everything that Van Gogh goes through in an extremely up-close, personal, visceral way. And that has a lot to do with how this film was shot by Benoit Delhomme, who was the cinematographer. And Delhomme does a very interesting way of portraying this film, and Bell has an interesting vision with this. And but this film, everything feels like you're in a fishbowl inside a camera eye, where it's like so up close and personal to everything. Every shot is up close in somebody's face, or on their hands, or attached to their feet as they're running, and you feel so inside it, and so up close and personal that it's hard to watch sometimes. But I thought it was really ambitious, and I've seen this done before, and I think it's a very intriguing way of shooting a film. It can be distracting for somebody who isn't used to that, though. And in terms of this film, it really felt like you were inside these torturous moments with Vincent Van Gogh, and you really felt up close and personal to his experience, and that's the point. You feel so connected inside the film with him that you feel his journey all the way through, despite the fact that it might feel like it's not going anywhere, specifically at some points. And it bounces around, and sometimes it's hard to follow, and some things come up so unexpectedly that it's hard to emotionally process at the moment. And there's one particular scene towards the end that felt like just came out of nowhere. And I think that hurt the film a bit. But the thing is, this film is so this will be such a memorable film because it's hard to forget the kind of experience that you see watching this film for the first time. And the performance in the centerpiece of Willem Dafoe's Vincent Van Gogh is so powerful. And there's a lot of things to admire about this film. There's some things that really didn't work for me. I'm hard pressed to recommend this to a wide audience. If you're a super big cinephile and you're really into like artful films like that, go check this out. It's really worth the experience, and it's an intriguing film. If you're not super into like the artfulness and you want something that's not gonna like make you feel uncomfortable, this film's gonna make you feel uncomfortable because not only that, but Tatiana Lizovkala's score is beautiful but can be overly intense and overbearing at moments, and really loud with the how the music's mixed in, and like just a piano key hitting you so hard. And I think it really fits the rest of the film with how this film is making it so immersive to the audience, but it can be overwhelming, and I can understand that. This film definitely isn't for everybody. This isn't a wide pleasing film, but for those who can appreciate the artfulness going into this film, I think it's worth checking out. It might be a little bit pretentious to me, but I would recommend it. Just not to people that aren't super into art house cinema. But let me know what you think, and thank you as always for supporting your Wasteland reviewer.